always think about is the actual physiology to psychology connection that happens with our intake of food, right? Because you've evolved to act. That's supposed to motivate you. Like feeling hunger is supposed to get you motivated to go do something about that, right? But I think that we are disconnected from our own bodies a little bit. And so we don't always know like how it works. Like here's what I'm trying to bark up the tree of. So once upon a time, I actually wrote a psychology-based advertising plan for Applebee's restaurants. And I proposed, and I actually pitched this. They didn't end up taking me up on it, but I pitched this whole bit where I basically explained, I believe I can increase the profits of a single store by 30%. And they were like, yeah, that's not possible. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And they're like, well, how could you do that? And I said, I'm going to sell dessert. And they're like, you have a plan to sell more dessert than we do. And I was like, yeah, I guarantee I could smash your record. And they were like, all right, what's the whole plan, right? So I talked to this regional manager and I was explaining, when you approach a table, what you should do is tell them, hey, we're running a special deal today. If you throw in your dessert order with your entree order, we'll take 10% off of the dessert. But you have to put it in during the meal order. That way we can get it out hot and fresh and have it ready for you. But if not, no worries, you could always order dessert later. You place that concept in their head. The people are staring at the menus. When are they hungriest?
Right.
When they walk in. So they're looking at this menu, and your eyes are always bigger than your stomach, right?
Right.
And so you're looking at this menu like, oh, dude, I want this and that, the other thing. And now I want this, special blonde, roasted dessert tray, brownie platter or whatever. And, well, I'm going to want it later. So let's just get it now. That way I get that 10%. And that way it comes out, right when I'm ready for it. What that idea is doing is taking advantage of how the stomach lining actually influences psychology. So what a lot of people don't know is that whenever your stomach is quote unquote empty, the lining of the stomach actually wrinkles together, right? Just imagine like a balloon. So when the air's out of the balloon, it wrinkles back together. When the lining of the stomach starts to wrinkle, it releases a biochemical that actually signals hunger to you. And I believe that chemical's leptin. And so it signals with this biochemical leptin. But once you start eating, as soon as you get a couple of bites in, that's enough to fix the wrinkle in the balloon, and it straightens back out. Once that happens, your stomach lining releases something called ghrelin and peptide YY. And these biochemicals take away the signal of hunger, but they take 20 minutes to saturate into the blood. And so the interesting thing is when you try to sell dessert after people have had their first bite, it's been at least 20 minutes. Right. They are much less inclined to buy the dessert because they feel full. But if you take advantage of their feeling of hunger, their eyes are bigger than their stomach, 30% more profits, Applebee's should have paid me a lot of money. So that comes down to the same thing here about emotional eating. A lot of people, when you're trying to lose weight, what we'll tell you is start your meal with like a glass of water. Or start with something and take your time, like pace yourself. If you force yourself to encounter your meal or your eating time in a wave of 30 to 45 minutes or an hour and really go slow with it, you'll find you don't even finish your meal because the feeling of hunger will cease 20 minutes after your first bite. And it just has to do with the biochemicals, ghrelin and peptide YY, that just have to get to a therapeutic level inside of your bloodstream for the sensation of hunger to actually be ceased. Mm-hmm. So it's fascinating because we've for so long thought of it as a genetic thing, but I think it's really the interplay of not only the environment, not only emotional eating, not only regulation of self, but also a failure to understand the physiology and how that affects the psychology of our brain. Because they say the stomach is the second mind.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I can't believe Applebee's doesn't respect your intelligence.
Yeah, damn it.
Don't they know that you have a podcast?
Don't they know who I am? I'm Pod Therapy co-host. Well, you know what? You passed on it. You missed your chance, Applebee's.
Yep. TGI Fridays, if you're interested.
Yeah. That's right. Fridays, call me. It's time for you to become a sponsor of the pod because I just increased your profits, baby. If you're out there and you own like a little mom and pop restaurant, totally please run with my idea and then call me and let me know how it turned out and then send me money. So send a check.
For any of our listeners out there who might kind of fall into this category of emotional eating, I do have some tips maybe to try. First of all, one thing I would encourage everybody to do is use healthy eating as a preventative measure. Keep track of your macros.
Yeah.
This is something that I do. I've got an app on my phone. It's My Fitness
Pal. MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, MyFitnessPal. Yeah.
That's what I use.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And so I can, keep track of carbs, fat, as well as protein. I know exactly what I'm trying to shoot for.
Right.
I can track all of that stuff. And how that helps me is it helps me to identify the difference between emotional stress and hunger stress.
Right.
Where I can say, okay, no, I can look on my Fitness Pal. I know I'm on target. I know
Right.
I'm where I'm supposed to be, right? So I'm doing okay. I don't need to worry about this. This is the emotional stress that I'm
Right.
dealing with. It kind of helps you identify the difference between the two. Another thing that I do personally is I never tell myself no. I never set that kind of boundary where, like for me, my biggest thing is Mountain Dew. If I'm having a rough day, an emotional day, you'll see me with Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Right. It's the sweet nectar drip from the heavens.
Okay.
I love Mountain Dew.
Pod Therapy is brought to you by
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew and TGI Fridays.
But here's what I do is I never tell myself I can't have one.
Okay.
Instead, what I do is I say I can have a Mountain Dew after I finish this
water.
canister of water.
Right.
Right. Because I know that once I finish that,
Yeah.
it's going to be less appealing to me.
Right.
Right. If I just tell myself no, then I'm going to go do it.
Right. I see your point.
Yeah. And then also just work on improving your emotional awareness. You know, I tell all my clients to do an hourly check-in. Check in with yourself at least once an hour. How are you doing? What's going on with that? And be able to identify some of this emotional stress right away when it occurs so that it doesn't get into affecting your eating habits.
That last piece is the advice that I would echo is when you feel like you want to eat and you say to yourself that you're hungry, or here's really where I want you to catch yourself. If you find that you're making a plan to go eat and you're like, oh, I'm going to swing by that fast food place or I'm going to go do this or that, the other thing, catch yourself in that moment and ask and do a center check-in, right? Check in with yourself and ask, am I physiologically hungry or am I psychologically feeling? And if it's the latter, I would like you to identify it and to write that down in your journal or to just keep it in your mind of, okay, that's stress, that's anxiety, that's insecurity. Today I'm feeling overwhelmed or worried or thoughtful about the future, and I'm really just trying to cope with that. So that doesn't mean you're not going to eat, but I just want you to be more aware because that which we measure, we manage. And I think if you're doing a good job of measuring the self, you'll find that it just takes away some of those calories that you didn't really want to take in the first place.
Exactly. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that's some good information for everybody.
Yeah.
And let us know how it turns out.
Yeah, give us some feedback on that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about meddling mothers. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and it is time to read our listener mail. This one is titled, My Mother is Calling My Work Supervisor and Ruining My Internship. Oh, man. Okay. I'm a 19-year-old woman. Let me start by saying that I'm currently finishing up a 6-month college internship with an international magazine brand. This internship is part of my school curriculum, so it's compulsory and will play a heavy part in influencing my GPA. When I first came on the team, it was clear from the get-go that they never really needed an intern. As such, most of my job happens at oddball hours, late in the week, when people start assigning me tasks they can't finish. As I'm getting my diploma in the media industry, this is nothing new and, in fact, pretty standard. Additionally, the magazine will be shutting down shortly after I leave. My mother has grown increasingly irritable when it comes to my odd work hours and the fact that I'm coming home late. I'm coming home at about 9 p.m. and I have to run some last-minute errands for my job. I'm hardly late. Anyway, she gets angry when I have to bring certain things from work home, like clothes, equipment, products, etc. My mother started to call up my supervisor to yell about my job. She's already called my supervisor tonight and is planning to call her again tomorrow. Obviously, I don't want her to do this because it's humiliating and I'll be humiliated in front of my boss, and my boss is the one grading me. But it's too late now, and I'm trying to figure out how to do damage control. Is there any way that I can get this whole situation under control before I get humiliated in front of my whole office?
So hypothetically, how would you feel, Jim, if my mom called you to complain that I'm working too much?
She does. We talk once a week. She says that. She complains about other things, though. Right. The weather. The prices went up at the buffet, odds and ends. But that's so amazing because we've had interns, and I think we generally are very gentle with our interns, and we were interns once.
Right.
And, but gosh, that is humiliating. That is. And, that last question there of like, is there any way to get this under control? Yeah, I feel like that ship has sailed. Like, I don't know.
I think there is.
Before she gets humiliated?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
You're already humiliated.
Yeah, that's done.
You can fix this for the next job.
Yeah, you can't unring this bell. Yeah, this internship is done. But hey, there's great news, Nick.
Yeah.
The company's going out of business, so don't worry. They won't remember. They're all going to be unemployed.
Oh, man. Okay, well, here's my take to the listener. I doubt this is an isolated incident. One thing I would encourage you to do is to take a look at ways you may be inadvertently reinforcing this behavior with your mom. Mm-hmm. I really feel it is highly unlikely that your mom maintains really clear, healthy boundaries in every aspect of your life except this one.
Damn internship. That's when she snapped.
That's the one that she gets involved in?
Bull. Yeah.
No, I think what's probably happening is this is the one that she's getting involved in that isn't convenient for you.
Right.
Because I've seen this before with parent-child interactions where the children want distance from their parents in certain situations, but in other situations will take full advantage of the parent being overly involved.
Oh.
Such as doing their laundry or providing, giving rides for free or doing all these other things that moms will do because they're moms and they will do anything for you.
I see.
And there are some times that I feel like kids will take advantage of that.
Okay.
And what that happens then is you inadvertently reinforce that behavior.
Okay.
That you teach mom, this is what you want. I need you involved in my life. I can't handle being independent. I need you to take care of me. And then you get the internship, and then mom's just doing what she's been trained.
Yeah, okay, I'll temper that a little bit. I'll come in as a parent, and I'll add some more context. So first off, she's 19. So I think that she's right at that age where your parent is having to relearn this relationship. And now they have to learn you not as my child anymore, but as this adult whose battles I should not be fighting. So this is the kind of family – I've seen this kind of situation before. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the kind of mom who is like friends with all of her friends on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever's cool right now. And when the other friends are being annoying or she complains like, oh, Becky's such a jerk, I could see this mom being the one to private message Becky and say, hey, can you lay off of her? She's had a really hard week, or, you need to check yourself or whatever, like being overly involved, like friends with her friends. And so I think that I think it's a boundaries thing, obviously. I mean, that jumps right off the page. But the thing that I would probably look at is this is an important time of life where the parent must learn that you are now their adult child. And that is a difficult transition to do because in many ways you're still dependent on them. Even though you're a 19-year-old woman, even though you're in college, you might be financially dependent on them. You might be psychologically dependent on them. You're not completely free of them and living your own life. And it's hard for a parent to let go. So like I have kids, right? And I know for me, if I was speaking to the parent in this story, the thing that I would want to start talking about is you have got to give your child the dignity of suffering, the dignity of risk, and the dignity of failure.
Right.
That actually is part of their development. And like that's actually something you owe them. And you can't shield them. You can't protect them. You can't mother hen them. You have to let her experience this. And ironically, Mom, that's part of what internship is. Internships suck.
They're designed to suck.
They are designed to suck. As if Satan himself created something that's supposed to purge you of idealism and nestle you straight into reality. That's what internships are. And I feel like you're doing your child a disservice by trying to temper or protect them from that. Ironically, I think the mom's love is being expressed in a normal way in a sense. But what's not fitting is that you're trying to love her like she's 10 and she's 19, and you have to let her be a woman who faces her own reality on life's terms. You can't protect her from that.
Now, do you think 19 may be a little late to be teaching this lesson? Because I'm thinking about how I